Welcome to today's webinar. My name's Cath Brooksbank. I'm the Head of Training at the EBI. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the training programme at the EBI, and there'll be plenty of time for questions at the end of my talk. If you have questions during my talk, please do enter them into the chat box, and we'll use those for discussion at the end of the talk. So just to run through our learning objectives for today, basically what we're planning to do this afternoon is explore the types of training that the EBI offers and explain how you can benefit from them. You'll discover how we tailor our training to different audiences. You'll find out a little bit about what we're looking for in our course applications, because many of the courses that we provide are selective. And you'll also learn how to access our freely available training whenever you need it. So before I tell you a little bit more about the training programme itself, I just thought I should give you a basic introduction to what the European Bioinformatics Institute is. So the EBI is Europe's home for biological data, services, research and training. We're a long-standing and trusted provider of open access data in the life sciences. We're part of a larger organisation called the European Molecular Biology Laboratory. This is an intergovernmental research organisation which is funded by its member states. All in all, there are about 1,500 people throughout EMBL, and about 570 of them are based here in Hingston at the EBI. We're a highly, highly international organisation with members of personnel from 57 different countries. And we're also the home of the Elixir Technical Hub. So this is basically the centre point for a large distributed research infrastructure that's serving biological data throughout Europe and beyond. So why is training important to us? Well, training really is at the heart of our mission because we have an absolutely huge user base. The vast majority of our activities at the EBI focus around providing freely available data and the tools associated with those to a very, very large user community. We do also do curiosity-driven research. The training that we provide hooks into both of those things, but is very, very closely aligned with our service mission. Our users come both from academia and from industry, and we also have a growing user base in the healthcare sector as well. So a part of what we do at the EBI is to disseminate what we do to industry, and our training programme encompasses industrial users as well as academic users. And then finally, we coordinate biological data provision throughout Europe. And again, you know, that coordination in the services sits hand in hand with coordination of what we do training-wise. And so we spend a lot of time and effort disseminating what we've learnt about training to others who would like to develop their own training programs. I have a team of about 15 people, but the thing I really, really want to make clear is that this is an EBI-wide effort, and it also involves large numbers of collaborators of the EBIs as well. So you'll find if you come to one of our training courses that you're being trained by experts in the data resources, the tools or the research from every team at the EBI and their collaborators. So last year we involved more than 100 of our staff members in developing and delivering training, and many people from beyond these four walls as well. So I just wanted to get a little bit of input from you before I go any further. So I'll be really interested in knowing what your main reason is for attending this webinar. Thank you for sharing that with me. We can incorporate some of that into the discussions that we have at the end. But I'm going to move on now and tell you a little bit about the training programme. And I really want to start with what our rationale was for developing the training programme as it is today. When I first joined the EBI, many of our users were bioinformaticians, but bioinformatics has become increasingly central to the molecular life sciences in the last 10 or 15 years. And biology is changing. We're becoming more and more data-centric, we're having to deal with many different types of data. Again, when I first developed an interest in bioinformatics, I think the vast majority of what was going on was either sequence-based or three-dimensional structure-based. That's changed enormously in the last decade. We're dealing with metabolomics data, we're dealing with regulatory data, we're dealing with networks and pathways, modeling simulations, many different types of information. There's this emphasis on a holistic approach, looking at entire systems, not just at the building blocks of life. And there's been an explosion in applying biological data to many different areas. Molecular medicine's been a big one, agriculture and food, environmental research, if we think about how metagenomics is being used to understand more about our environment around us. And then recently there's been an enormous explosion in the use of clinical sequencing, and the hope is that we can do a much better job of interpreting those variations in each individual's sequences to understand more about an individual's health and how that will develop into disease, and how we can intervene to maintain individuals' health. And so that really was our rationale for developing a training program that is not just aimed at bioinformaticians, although we do deliver some training for bioinformaticians, but is aimed at the molecular life scientist or the clinical researcher, or in some cases even the clinical practitioner that is interacting with these data and needs to do more and more with it. And we really have 4 strands to our training program. The jewel in the crown, if you like, is our on-site training program, and I'm going to, once I've been through this slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about each of these individual strands in a bit more detail. But basically, you can come to this campus. We have a really fantastic setup. The places on our courses are extremely competitive. We work very hard to ensure that the applicants who will benefit the most from the training are the ones who come along to the course. While you're here, you interact with a good number of individuals from the services that are actually developing the data resources and tools that the EBI provides. We also go all over the world. We have an off-site training program. Those same trainers, those people who are often either curators or software developers embedded in our service teams, go out to host organisations and provide hands-on training to researchers at your institute. We try and tailor this to the needs of the individual host. The fastest growing mode of training that we provide is Train Online, our free e-learning resource, and I'm going to tell you quite a bit about that, because this is something that you can access on demand and dip in and out of as you need it. And it also provides a great supplement to the face-to-face training that we provide. And then finally, we also put a lot of effort into enabling others to deliver bioinformatics training. And we do this really because it's quite challenging for us to meet demand, and so the more of a multiplier effect that we can have, the more people we can engage in delivering training, the better. I'm going to give you quite a few pointers to various sources of information this afternoon. But I just wanted to remind you that just about everything I'm going to mention is hung off of the main training website at the EBI, and the URL for that is at the bottom of your screen now. So we've actually put a lot of effort recently into designing a web page that enables you to find all of the training that we offer in one easy-to-use interface. You can filter by topic, you can filter by date, you can filter by geography. You can see online courses side by side with face-to-face courses, and we try to provide really clear and consistent information on each course, including what your learning outcomes will be, and anything that you need to know before you come on one of our courses. For many of the courses that we provide, you don't need any previous programming experience, but there's the odd one where you do need a little bit of programming and a little bit of command line experience. We will always provide that information in the course web page, so you know before you apply whether or not you're going to benefit from the training. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our on-site training program, and I wanted to start with the values that we apply particularly to the training that we deliver on site, because I mean these are our longest and most involved courses. They are truly immersive. Typically, you would come to the EBI for 4 or 5 days. We try and ensure that you can actually stay on site on this campus. We have wonderful conference facilities here. These courses are extremely collegial. You will probably get to know your fellow trainees and your trainers extremely well over that 4 or 5 days. And some of those interactions that you initiate at our training courses may well last you several years into your career, and maybe throughout your career in the future. The training that we provide is led by the real experts, the people who are developing and curating the data resources, the people who are doing the curiosity-driven research here at the EBI. We do this to ensure that everything we're doing is at the cutting edge, and also that you really are hearing it from the experts. We work with those experts to ensure that they're also excellent trainers in addition to being excellent scientists. And we work with them to ensure that they can be as responsive to our trainees' needs as possible. Another really important feature of our training courses is that there's a very, very high proportion of practical content. We aim for at least 50% practical content. You're using the data resources. Sometimes there are opportunities for you to bring your own data. And so we really want to ensure that you are spending quality time interacting with these public domain data resources and tools, so that you can then go back to your home institution and make full use of what you've learned on the training. In terms of what we cover, if I was to look at the program as a whole, the courses that we provide map very, very closely to the EBI's core service areas. So we think of this in terms of starting out with the building blocks of life: genes, genomes, proteins, protein structures, small molecules, putting all of those things together into systems. And then we have a number of courses that cross over several topics. And deal with broader concepts such as how to visualize your data, how to integrate your data. We've just launched a couple of courses, one for principal investigators and one for core facilities managers. And we're also building more training on how you do sort of high-end compute working in an HPC environment. So that's new for this year. But really, the training that we provide maps very, very closely onto the data resources and tools that the EBI provides. That said, we put a huge amount of effort into designing courses around the needs of our users, and we recognise very, very early on that a postdoc in a sort of classic molecular life science lab has a very different set of needs from, let's say, a plant geneticist working in an agri-food company, or a clinician scientist working in a hospital environment. And so the training that we provide is tailored to different target audiences, we go and talk to our users. We gain input from our trainees through user surveys at the end of each course. We ask our trainees what their expectations are before they even start the course, and we really try and ensure that what we're doing is relevant to your own research. And part of this is around selecting the trainees who will benefit the most from our training, because our training rooms have 30 seats in them, and so often we have 100, 150 applicants for a course, and we really, really want to make sure that we give those places to the people who are going to benefit the most. So I thought it might be helpful if I just ran through the kinds of things that we're looking for when you apply for a course at the EBI. We look at whether you have the prerequisite knowledge. The vast majority of our courses are aimed at molecular life scientists who have done a first degree. They may have embarked on a PhD, they may be an early stage postdoc, they may be much further down in their career. Often we have people on our training courses who are PIs and who are already starting to think about how they can incorporate bioinformatics into an area that wasn't previously bioinformatics heavy. We need to know that you've got the scientific background that's required to make the most of the training. We like to know a little bit about what your expectations are, because then we can match your expectations to the training that we deliver. And if your expectations are very, very different from the training that we're intending to offer, then that's a flag for us that this might not be the best course for you. We like to know whether you have data to analyse now, or whether you will do shortly in the future, because there's very, very strong evidence that if you don't go back home and use what you've learned fairly quickly after you've been on a course, then you lose that learning because you don't get a chance to reinforce it. So we try and get the timing of your training right, if you like. And then another thing that's very important to us, because we've recognised that we can't train everybody, is that we like to know whether you're going to pass the knowledge that you've gained on to others, either within your group, within your organisation, possibly within your department. And in fact, this has been very, very successful, and the sort of average multiplier effect from each of our trainees is about 5 other individuals, which makes a big, big difference to us. It gives our training 5 times the impact than it would otherwise have. So all of this information about how we select for our trainees is available on the website, and if you're planning to apply for an on-site course, I would suggest that you take a good look at it before you actually apply, because it will help you. Okay, so I'm going to move on to our off-site training programme, and really the point that I wanted to make here is that we're a pan-European organisation. We focus on delivering training in Europe, but we also go all over the world, and this is just a map of where we've been over the last 7 or 8 years, and we really have had global reach here. If you are interested in hosting an off-site workshop, then the way we do this is we provide you with a range of full-day and half-day modules that you can combine to suit the people in your own research organisation, and we help you to do that. So the first thing we would do is pick up the phone to you and have a good chat about who your researchers are and which modules might apply best to your own organisation. In addition to that, we try and tailor our off-site training with use cases that are relevant to your trainees' needs. So if we were going to train at a cancer research organisation, we wouldn't use plant-based cases or microbe-based cases. We would try and find things that were relevant to human beings and to cancer wherever we could. The module list is available on our website, and often our potential hosts like to look at other off-site courses that we've run for inspiration, and that's a useful thing to do if you would like to host an off-site training course of your own. In terms of how this is funded, we ask our hosts to fund our trainers' travel and accommodation. We don't charge a fee for the training itself. Certainly within Europe, we view that as part of our core remit. If you want to charge a registration fee to cover your costs, you're at liberty to do so. We expect that you won't make a profit out of this. We're a non-profit organisation, and if we're coming to train for you, we anticipate that you would work with the same kind of philosophy as we work with. So if you'd like to know more about the off-site training programme, if you're interested in hosting a workshop at your own organisation, then there's an email address there. Please do contact us, and we'll provide you with more information and organise a call. So next I'm going to move on to Train Online. This is our freely available e-learning resource. We launched this just over 5 years ago, and a major driver for this is that, whilst we do the very, very best we can in terms of providing training here at the EBI and touring the globe delivering training to people at their own organisations, we can't reach everybody, and we can't reach everybody when they need the training. And the really, really nice thing about Train Online is that not only is it free, but it also provides training when you need it. So if you're about to move into next generation sequencing, or if you're about to move into metabolomics, let's say, then you can go onto the Train Online site, you can get a little bit of conceptual information, you can get some basic training in how to use the data resources and tools and how to analyze the data. And that's all there, freely available for you to repeat as often as you like. We've been growing quite rapidly, both in terms of users and in terms of the amount of training that we offer through our e-learning resource. And we now have more than 90 courses covering, again, every service at the EBI and all of the major topics in bioinformatics, from genomics through to chemical biology, and then how to make the most of the scientific literature and link that up to structured data. For many of the courses that we provide, you don't need any previous experience of bioinformatics. For many of these courses, we're targeting the naive user, if you like. And what we're aiming to do here really is enable you to become competent users of the EBI's data resources and tools. This is very, very different from trying to teach you to be a bioinformatician. That's not what we're in the business of doing. There are many, many excellent master's courses throughout the world that will help you to launch yourself into a career in bioinformatics, but we're really targeting the EBI's user community here. Another great thing about Train Online is all of the content that we provide is Creative Commons share alike attributable license. And every single course that we provide also has a DOI. So these are actually linked through to Europe PubMed Central, which is the EBI's literature data resource. So you can find the courses listed there as well as in Train Online itself. Our trainers get recognition for publishing a course, and other trainers can reuse the course materials that we provide. In terms of our target audiences for Train Online, the big one here really is bench-based life scientists. They may not know exactly which resource is best for them. They might want to familiarize themselves with that resource and how to use it. We do also have a growing number of courses for bioinformaticians and developers. Again, for the 40% of you who answered the polls saying that you are supporting others to do bioinformatics, then just having a primer on what resources are available and what you can do with each of those resources is quite handy for you, and then getting a recap on how to interact with those resources as a power user, how to gain programmatic access, how to gain access through our APIs is all useful information for you. And then finally, in Train Online, we also target course providers. We have a growing number of course providers, both within higher education and within continuing professional development, that use courses in Train Online as part of a broader curriculum. And sometimes we'll come in on a Monday morning and discover that 40 people in Brazil have just registered for one of our for Train Online and have all been doing the same course. And that's great. We really, really like Train Online being used in that way. So we have a number of different types of course in Train Online. Some of them are very conceptual. They talk about where the data come from, and a little bit about the the actual experimental side of things, where the pitfalls are, what's easy to interpret, what requires caution in terms of interpretation. We have a large number of these quick tours, which are essentially a 15-minute guide to an individual data resource, how you access it, how you submit data if it's an archival data resource, and how you get the data out again. We have some longer courses that typically take 2 or 3 hours, and will walk you through an individual data resource, showing you how to do the sort of typical things that you might want to do. So in Ensemble, it might be how to browse a genome, how to compare a sequence between species, how to look at regulatory information on a genome, these kinds of things. We have some courses that are based on material in our face-to-face courses and have quite a large amount of video material. Some of those have up to 15 hours of content, so you really, you want to block out significant amounts of time if you're going to do one of those courses. And then at the other end of the scale, we have webinars like this one. Every single one of the webinars that we deliver live is also recorded and then made available afterwards through Train Online. We try and cater for different learning preferences, so there's plenty. If like me, you're a very reflective person and like to read lots of information before you get started on something, we have tutorial-based material, we have guided examples, lots of annotated illustrations and screenshots. But then for those who prefer to learn by doing, we have exercises, we have videos, there are quizzes. So we try and make the training material as engaging as possible. Last year, we also launched a new workflow-based training program. It's called Bioinformatics for Discovery. It's aimed at discovery scientists in industry, although it may well be relevant to many in academia as well. And this is a workflow-based training program. So basically, we take a specific scientific problem. Let's say in drug discovery, it might be, I have an interesting new target and I'd be interested to know whether there are any safety red flags for this target. We will take you through a workflow that involves several courses within Train Online, and once you've gone through that workflow, you'll be able to answer your particular bioinformatics question, and then you can apply what you've learned to your own specific question, of course. Okay, so I was going to ask you another question at this point. I'd be really interested to learn a little bit more about what your most urgent training need is right now in bioinformatics. I haven't set up a specific poll for this, but if you could just use the chat function within GoToTraining to tell me a little bit about what your most immediate training needs are, then again, we can incorporate that into the discussion at the end. Okay, I'm going to crack on because I'm aware that I'm getting towards the end of my half hour. So I'm going to finish my presentation with just a little bit of information about how course providers can benefit from the EBI training programme. I'm going to try and be brief here because I don't think we've actually got any course providers online. But even as a trainee, you may find some of this information useful. So we're big believers in reusing, recycling, and in the multiplier effect. So we encourage other course providers to reuse and tweak our course materials. And to enable them to do that, all of the training materials that we develop are Creative Commons share alike. The concept behind this is that if you take our training material and reuse it, we ask you to give us an attribution, and we also ask you to share what you've developed basically in the same vein, so that others can build on what you've done with our training materials and use it in the same way. And in this way, we build communities of course providers who are all sharing materials and collaborating together. And in fact, several communities have evolved around this kind of approach. And it's an approach that we're using in Elixir throughout the Elixir nodes as part of our commitment to providing bioinformatics services throughout Europe. To ensure that we do this effectively, we try and spread our materials around in as many different places as we can to make them discoverable. So from our face-to-face training courses, once a course has been completed, we make all of our training materials available from the course website. You'll find a little box in the bottom right-hand side of the course webpage which has got links to all of the training materials. Train Online, of course, all of the information is freely available there on the web, and any of that can be incorporated into your own training programs. You can either copy and paste from the HTML from the PDFs, or you can actually incorporate entire courses into your own training programs. If you want to do anything really sophisticated with Train Online, then probably the best thing to do is to get in touch with us and talk to us about how best to do that. We also provide training materials through Elixir's trainee support system, and I've provided a link to that. All of the Elixir nodes are now doing this, so this really provides a kind of pan-European perspective on training materials and easy access to them. And then finally, we provide train-the-trainer workshops, and our training program manager, Sarah Morgan, is the brains behind this. If you're interested in a train-the-trainer workshop, then the best thing to do is email Sarah, and she can tell you more about that program. Okay, so finally, I've provided a list here of the many different ways in which you can keep up to date with what the EBI training program is doing. I mentioned at the very beginning of my talk that we're part of EMBL, and of course EBI's training program is part of EMBL's broader course and conference program. And so the easiest way to find out what's going on and to get alerts as to when registrations are opening for new courses is to sign up for the EMBL course and conference newsletter. And I've provided a link for that. That link is also right at the top of the main training webpage. If you're interested in online training, you can register for a Train Online account. It's not necessary to register, but if you want to use the quizzes and if you want to provide us with feedback, if you want to use our star rating system or keep a track of which courses you've completed, then you do need to register because you'll be keeping your own personal account information. And I've given you the link to where you can register for Train Online. If you'd like to know more about careers in bioinformatics, and if you'd like to have face-to-face conversations with representatives from all of our service teams, all of the people who build the data resources and tools that the EBI provides, then it's a really good idea to come to one of our open days. We run these on an annual basis, and our next one is on the 13th of October. I think officially registration has now closed for that event, but if you were really, really desperate to come, I suggest you drop us a line. We may be able to squeeze a couple of extra people in. Failing that, then there will be another one next year. And then we have a whole load of social media links. We run our own Twitter feed from the training team, and there's also a lot of information about EBI's training program that's fed through the general EBI Twitter feed. You can follow us on Facebook, and we also have a YouTube channel. All of the videos that we incorporate into training and all of the short video-based tutorials that our individual service providers create are all available through the EBI YouTube channel. Finally, just to let you know that this webinar is one of a series. If you want to see the other upcoming webinars, I'm pointing you to the webinar webpage here. We love to get feedback on our webinars, and there will be a little feedback questionnaire at the end of this webinar. But also, if there's anything that you would like to see in our webinar program and haven't seen yet, then do drop us a line and we'll do our very best. We really, really like to do the best we can for our users, and the only way we can do that is if you provide us with input. So I would strongly, strongly encourage you to do that. Okay, so thank you for listening to me. At this point, I would like to thank the members of my team whose pictures you can see here, and then all of the funders who make our training program possible. The vast majority of the people in my team are funded by EMBL, but we've also had funding from the Innovative Medicines Initiative, the European Commission, research councils in the UK, particularly the BBSRC, the Wellcome Trust, which is a research charity here in the UK, and also our sister organisation, EMBO. So I would like to thank you very much for listening. Thank you for interacting so much. This has actually been a really, really enjoyable experience for me. I haven't done an EBI webinar before, despite the fact that I'm the head of training here at the EBI, so this has been a first for me. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and I hope we'll see some of you again at future webinars, and I hope at future training courses here at the EBI as well. If you have any further questions, please do get in touch. If you go to the EBI support, there is a support channel specifically for training. We answer those questions as quickly as we can. So please do get in touch if you need further help from us.